Imagine watching the greatest team in the world lose to a group of players nobody expected to win. Not lose after a hard-fought battle, lose to a result that seemed impossible before the match even started. At the FIFA World Cup, moments like that have happened again and again, and some of them changed soccer history forever. The strange part is that these shocks aren't rare accidents. They've become part of what makes the World Cup unlike any other sporting event on Earth. Because every 4 years, giants fall, and unknown teams become legends. So why does the World Cup produce so many unforgettable upsets? And what can these moments teach us about the tournament itself? To answer that, we need to go back to one of the most shocking results ever recorded. In 1950, England arrived at the World Cup believing they were among the strongest soccer nations in the world. Many English fans expected comfortable victories. Their next opponent was the United States. At the time, American soccer was nowhere near the global force it is becoming today. Few people outside the United States gave the Americans much chance. Some newspapers barely considered the match competitive. And that's where the story gets interesting. Against all expectations, the United States defeated England 1-0. The result was so unbelievable that some reports initially assumed there had been a printing error. Surely England had won 10-1, not lost 1-0. But the score was real. And one of the greatest upsets in sports history had just occurred. For modern American fans, this may seem surprising, but that victory remains one of the most famous moments in U.S. soccer history. Yet it would not be the last time the World Cup shocked the world, not even close. 16 years later, another underdog would create an even bigger earthquake. In 1966, North Korea arrived at the World Cup as complete outsiders. Most football fans knew almost nothing about the team. Their next challenge seemed impossible: Italy, one of football's traditional powers, a nation with a proud history and enormous expectations. Few believed North Korea could compete. Then something extraordinary happened. North Korea defeated Italy and knocked them out of the tournament. The soccer world was stunned. Italy returned home to furious criticism. Meanwhile, North Korea became an international sensation. But that's only part of the story. Because the greatest World Cup shocks aren't always about a single match. Sometimes they're about an entire tournament. And that's exactly what happened in 1990. When Cameroon arrived in Italy for the World Cup, they were not considered contenders. Most predictions focused on traditional powers: Argentina, Germany, Italy, Brazil. Cameroon was barely part of the conversation. Then the tournament began. And in the opening match, Cameroon faced defending champions Argentina, led by Diego Maradona, one of the greatest players in soccer history. The outcome seemed obvious, until Cameroon won. Suddenly, the entire world was paying attention. What happened next surprised everyone. Cameroon kept advancing, round after round, match after match. The team inspired fans far beyond Africa. By reaching the quarterfinals, Cameroon achieved something no African nation had accomplished before, and they changed perceptions of African soccer forever. But the World Cup wasn't finished creating surprises. In 2002, another underdog was waiting: Senegal. The tournament opened with a match against France. At the time, France was the defending World Cup champion. Many believed they would challenge for another title. Instead, Senegal defeated them. The soccer world watched in disbelief. But the most important detail is often overlooked. Senegal didn't simply win one match. They continued advancing, eventually reaching the quarterfinals. What started as a surprise became one of the greatest tournament runs in World Cup history. And that's when a pattern begins to emerge. The World Cup rewards belief. Because unlike club soccer, where wealthy teams often dominate for years, international soccer creates opportunities for unexpected stories. Every 4 years, a new generation arrives, a new tournament begins, and nobody knows exactly what will happen. To understand why this matters, we need to jump forward to 2014. A year that produced one of the most unexpected runs ever seen. Costa Rica entered the tournament in a group many considered impossible. Their opponents included Italy, England, and Uruguay, 3 soccer heavyweights. Many experts expected Costa Rica to finish last. Instead, they won the group. The soccer world couldn't believe it. What looked impossible before kickoff suddenly became reality. And as the tournament continued, Costa Rica kept surviving. The underdogs refused to disappear. Millions of neutral fans suddenly found themselves cheering for a nation of just a few million people. Because that's one of the hidden powers of the World Cup. People love seeing giants challenged. They love seeing impossible stories become real, and sometimes the impossible becomes even bigger. In 2022, Argentina arrived at the World Cup as one of the favorites to win the entire tournament. The team featured Lionel Messi, one of the greatest players the sport has ever seen. Their opening opponent was Saudi Arabia. Most predictions expected a comfortable Argentine victory. Instead, Saudi Arabia shocked the world. They won. For a moment, soccer fans everywhere wondered whether the tournament had already produced its biggest surprise. But the story didn't end there, because another nation was preparing to make history: Morocco. Before the tournament began, few people predicted a deep Moroccan run. Yet match after match, they continued advancing, defeating powerful opponents, breaking expectations, making history, and eventually becoming the first African nation ever to reach a World Cup semifinal. Entire regions celebrated. Millions of people saw themselves represented on the world's biggest sporting stage. And that's when everything changed, because these stories reveal something deeper about the World Cup itself. What most people believe is that the tournament is dominated by soccer's traditional powers. But the reality is more complicated. The Giants win often, but they never control the story completely. Every World Cup creates opportunities for someone unexpected: a nation, a player, a generation, a dream. And that's exactly why billions of people keep watching. Nobody truly knows what comes next. Not the experts, not the players, not even the champions. Because the moment a ball is kicked, history becomes possible. The biggest World Cup shocks aren't remembered simply because someone lost. They're remembered because they prove something larger. They prove that football remains unpredictable, that hope matters, that underdogs can change history, and that one match can inspire an entire nation for generations. So, what is the biggest World Cup shock of all time? The answer depends on who you ask. For some, it's the United States defeating England in 1950. For others, it's North Korea eliminating Italy, Cameroon stunning Argentina, Senegal defeating France, Costa Rica conquering the group of death, Saudi Arabia shocking Argentina, or Morocco rewriting history. But perhaps the real answer is this: the greatest World Cup shock is that these moments keep happening, again and again and again. No matter how powerful the favorites appear, no matter how impossible the odds seem. That's why the World Cup remains the most unpredictable tournament on Earth. And that's why billions of people refuse to miss it. Had you heard about any of these upsets before? And which World Cup shock do you think was the most unbelievable? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching The World Game, and I'll see you in the next story.